now streaming on Patreon. Layman's Journal Chapter 254. 2018 was a really good year for movies. Almost too good. We had films like Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You could argue it was the best year in recent history, but in spite of all the commercial success of those films, there were two movies in particular that I believe were exponentially better than all of them. One was Searching, and the other was Widows. But neither of those films garnered any type of box office success. Both grossed less than $100 million. However, Searching did well for what it was. You see, it was a small budget film. It cost next to nothing to produce. So even though it only made $42 million in the box office, that was a huge profit given what it cost to make. Widows, on the other hand, was a massive commercial failure. It only grossed $72 million of the $105 million needed to break even, meaning the studio took a $33 million loss. And to make matters worse, it had an all-star cast. It featured Viola Davis, Liam Neeson, Elizabeth Debicki, Colin Farrell, Daniel Kaluuya, and Brian Tyree Henry, all of whom did an outstanding job in their roles. But still, they garnered no attention from the Academy. So the film had no commercial or critical success. And I think that's largely due to girl power fatigue. You see, Widows was released at the height of the DEI woke era of Hollywood. It came out at a time when films like the Star Wars sequel trilogies, the Ghostbusters sequels, and that god-awful Ocean's 11 spin-off, Ocean's 8. And all of those films featured strong heroic females and masculine roles that were originally written for men. So when people saw the trailer for Widows, a heist movie featuring an all-female cast with the underlying theme of weregirls fighting mean boys in a male-dominated world, the collective response was,
"Oh shit, here we go again."
Yeah, they wanted no part of it. Everyone was tired of the girl boss flicks. And they were right, to a degree. Widows, like many other films featuring strong female protagonists in this woke era of movie making, is feminist rage porn. It makes masculinity in men the central part of the problem, while simultaneously celebrating it in women. So while Veronica, the film's lead character, is allowed to be a strong, stoic, courageous, and morally incorruptible leader, the men who exude those same characteristics are all evil and in direct confrontation with her. And of the few men who are the good guys, they're either dead or in submission to Veronica, the female protagonist. And if you want to hear more about that theory, please check out my breakdown of Speak No Evil. It's some of my best work. But getting back to the topic at hand, it all fits into the theme of this channel. Entertainment media is more than entertainment, it's propaganda through art. The stories may be fake, but the messages behind the stories are always real. For good or bad, better or worse, the goal is to influence your mind, change your way of thinking to affect culture. And the thing about propaganda in art is that it isn't always evident. It's easy to spot in bad films and TV shows. For example, you can see it a mile away in films like The Woman King and Captain Marvel, or in shows like She-Hulk and Amazon Prime's The Power. However, you don't see it in films that are entertaining. And Widows, in my opinion, is one of those films where the propaganda is not evident, because the messaging was subtle and grounded. And what I mean by that is, there were no she-man moments. There were no female Avengers assembling, no 90-pound women beating up a hallway full of men. So the women didn't dominate men physically. To the contrary, the film was intelligent and well-crafted. So unless you were told to anticipate it ahead of time or had an eye for that sort of thing, you wouldn't notice you're being preached to, as it's easy to get caught up in the entertainment of the moment, even though it hates and demonizes men. And speaking of the men of the film, they weren't stupid. But more importantly, you don't see them getting told. There are no lectures or finger-wagging or warnings to check their privilege. Now I can imagine some of you are wondering, how can I say this about a film like Widows, a film that dabbles in misandry? Well, that's because all movies, regardless of genre, have a bit of propaganda in them. It's just that the good ones focus on the plot, which is why I can appreciate Widows for its artistic prowess, in spite of the progressive messaging. And that used to be the case with all films coming out of Hollywood. The message was always subtle. They were metaphors buried within the narrative. But today, The narrative and overall entertainment value take a back seat to the message, as filmmakers today don't care if a movie is good, as long as the audience is lectured. And in a way, that's probably why I enjoyed the film so much. You've just seen a preview of my latest video, which you can watch now in its entirety, uncensored and without obstruction, exclusively on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/Laymans Journal. Hope to see you there. I'm out.